Hey guys, so here's part 3 of the 8.5 notes. We're now going to be talking about the properties of a kite. So a kite is a quadrilateral that has two pairs of consecutive, so remember consecutive means right next to each other, of congruent sides. But opposite sides are not congruent, so don't get this confused with parallelograms. So notice here that they did make tick marks, so are consecutive meaning they're right next to each other. Those are congruent, while the other consecutive sides, they are congruent as well. Now, when we have a kite, you also have exactly one pair of opposite angles, and that's going to be in between here. So these angles are going to be congruent, and then the last, if you look at your quadrilateral family tree chart, the last property is that diagonals are perpendicular. So remember, perpendicular means that these lines intersect at 90 degrees. Okay, let's use that information to do the next few problems. Okay, in the diagram, we got PQRS is a kite, so we're going to find the measure of angle Q. So we are dealing only with the angles here, okay? So first of all, remember that basically the opposite angles, so it's not going to be P and R, which we can definitely see they are not congruent, but Q and S, those are going to be congruent, because remember, exactly one pair of opposite angles are congruent. Okay, so how can we find this? Now this is actually going back to section 8.1 in our notes. The very first thing we actually have to do is find the sum of the interior angles. We thought this would not come back, but it does. So remember that formula, sum equals n minus 2 times 180. Remember, n represents the number of sides. Here we have 4 sides. So I add 4 minus 2 times 180, which gives me 2 times 180. When I do 4 minus 2, which gives me 360 degrees. Okay, so now will be our next part, and that's to really find the measure of angle Q. Okay, to do that, what we'll need to do is we're going to take the angles that we already know, so 83, and then plus 41. We're going to add those together and then subtract it from our 360 degrees. So I'm going to do it this way, okay? So we have 360, and I'm going to subtract it from the known angles that we have. So you can just plug this into your calculator. When we do that, we get 236, okay? Now, know that Q and S, they are congruent. So since they are congruent, we're going to have two of the same angles, or the angles are going to have the same amount. So what I'm going to do is divide both by 2, because Q and S are not both 236. That would be way more than 360 degrees. When I do that, I get 118. So measure of angle Q is going to be 118 degrees. And that'll be the same as well for a measure of angle S. Okay, let's look at example 2 here. So in the diagram, ABC is a kite. Once again, we're trying to find the measure of angle A. So once again, another angle measurement. So remember, we have one pair of opposite angles congruent. So that's going to be B and D. And then we have 50 here for C. So we're going to do the same exact thing, actually, that we did in example 1. We have to figure out the sum of our interior angles, okay? Now, what do you guys think that's going to be here for our interior angles? Well, we already solved for that, right? It was 360 degrees. Okay, so that's going to be 360 degrees. Now, we'll go ahead and solve for a measure of angle A. Okay, to do this, we're going to add up all the known angle measurements. We know angle B is 120. Now, since B and D are congruent, that means angle D is also 120 degrees. And then angle C is 50. And then we're trying to find the measure of angle A. And so that's going to equal to our sum, which is 360 degrees. Okay, so now from here, basically I'm going to add my like terms. So I do 120 plus 120 plus 50. And so that's going to give me 290. So now I need to subtract that from both sides. And so my measure of angle A is going to be 70 degrees. And that's going to be my answer there. Okay, make sure if you have any questions, you contact me, and make sure you work on the homework assignment. I'll see you guys later.